What's up?
Oh, I'm just compiling all the top sports scores, news, and odds so I can make the very best bets.
Me too. BetOnline.ag.
Join today and receive your 50% welcome bonus at betonline.ag.
For the second year in a row, the Patriots invest heavily in an SEC running back in the NFL draft. Is it a sign that their offense could potentially be changing? I'm Alex Barth. He is Evan Lazar. This is a special draft edition of the Foxboro Report, powered by betonline.ag. Visit clnsmedia.com/win and use the promo code CLNS50 today. Evan, Damien Harris out of Alabama.
I know you love this one.
I do. And look, Nick Caserio basically came out and said it in his post-draft, whatever you want to call it, press conference, that Harris was not a need. They did not come into this draft expecting to take a running back, but he was just so much better than any other option they saw on the board. They couldn't not take him.
Yeah, so I had one running back on my big board out of 50 players.
Yeah.
It was Damien Harris, and it just screamed Patriots for me from the get-go. I think the biggest couple of things, one, talking to him at the Combine, this is a guy that gets it. He gets he's not necessarily going to be a featured back all the time. He's not going to tote the rock 30 times a game, every single game, and he's willing to share that workload and not compete with his teammates, but try to win football games with his teammates. He's a culture guy.
That's what you learned at Alabama. He shared the ball with, a couple of guys. Kenyon Drake, Bo Scarborough. Right, all of those guys. And, he's also a guy that can do a little bit of everything. He's a nice way to round out their backfield because you have Sony Michel, who really is the bell cow back, but you can feel comfortable giving Damien Harris the ball in between the tackles 10 to 20 times a game, depending on what it calls for. But he's going to be more of a factor in the passing game than Sony Michel is. He's not the wide receiver James White is at all, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's great on the wide receiver screen. That might have been his best play at Alabama. Yeah. They lost the championship game, I think, because they didn't run it enough. Before I go down that rabbit hole, but no, he's the
Venables blitzes.
He's the perfect. Look, that game was just great coaching on both sides. We won't. But I will say this. He is the great way to round out their backfield. He can do a little bit of everything. So, if James White's a little banged up at the end of the season, you need to give him a day off. Damien Harris can carry the workload. If Sony Michel tweaks his knee, needs a game off, Damien Harris can pick up the slack that he's going to let go. Now, the question is, what happens with Rex Burkhead? Or do they carry 5 running backs?
Interesting. I think they could carry 5 running backs. Brandon Bolden. It's the same conversation with the corners with Keon Crossen, I think. Brandon Bolden's predominantly a special teams player in the team's eyes. They might even list him on the official team depth chart behind the walls of Judd Stadium here as a special teams player. The thing about Damien Harris also that stands out to me is their trust in the Alabama program.
Yeah, and really Caserio said as much.
Really the faith they have in Nick Saban. And Nick Saban runs an offense and a defense that's very game plan centric, and they really can morph week to week from a gap or a zone team depending on the opponent, and that's something that Damien Harris is going to have to do here as well. So he's a guy that can pick up the offense quickly. The other thing I like about him too, just from a playing style perspective, he knows who he is. He knows that he's not going to be this jitterbug running back that's going to make guys miss in a phone booth. So he hits the hole hard, he gets downhill quickly, and once he gets downhill and he gets some speed behind his pads, he can lower the hammer. I mean, he's not, LeGarrette Blount by any means, but
kind of like
he's got
Sony.
Some power.
It's a little bit of surprise power.
It's more like a contact balance and surprise power than it is like a LeGarrette Blount.
Right.
But I think that both of the guys, Sony and Damien Harris, offer them some physicality at the position.
So one more point on Harris when it comes to roster construction. And we both agree the Patriots had a great draft. They're somewhere in the B+, A- range.
I might even go higher. This is the best I've felt about a Patriots draft in a long time.
And it is for me too, but the one thing that's going to hold people up is that they didn't take a tight end.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to know how they're going to replace Rob Gronkowski. And I think what some people are missing is that you don't need necessarily a tight end to replace what Rob Gronkowski does. And it goes back to what I said at the top of the segment, is the offense changing. Yeah. I think some of the responsibilities that were handled by the tight ends, not the same. You're not going to see Damien Harris go running up the seam from the slot, but some of the responsibilities that were handled by the tight ends, I think, are now going to shift to the running backs. That becomes a very strong position for them. And as Brady gets a little older, I think you put more balance on the running back, shorter throws, more running the ball. So this, to me, is sort of the pick to start replacing some of the production from Rob Gronkowski. It's not a tight end, and I know I'm going to sound weird for that. Right, N'Keal Harry, too.
I think the biggest thing, the word that I would use is that they're going to devalue the tight end position in the offense.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you.
So they're going to take the tight end position and they're going to say whatever production we get out of Austin Seferian-Jenkins and Matt LaCosse in the passing game is all gravy.
Right.
And from here, we're going to focus on getting guys that can block, which I think that Izzo and Seferian-Jenkins a little bit can do. And then I think that they're really going to focus on overvaluing running backs.
Right, they're going to bump the value up of running backs.
Overvaluing Julian Edelman, who's now probably the second most or third most important player on the team.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to go with this. I keep on saying it, and you keep on saying it. The offense doesn't need to be the same as it was with Rob Gronkowski. Right. It doesn't need to be tight end centric.
They won 3 Super Bowls before
that's exactly
Rob Gronk. And look, they had some good tight ends, right? Ben Watson, Daniel Graham. They're good players.
Ben Watson was definitely more of a receiver.
Right.
Daniel Graham was a blocking tight end.
And Watson wasn't close to Gronkowski. So they're gonna remake the
early
offense.
2000s offense where it's a lot of 3 wide receiver packages and then also I formation under the gun. Under center is what I mean. That's where we're going, I think, a little bit more than the 2 tight end sets and the Rob Gronkowski show, essentially, that we've seen since 2011, 2010, whenever you want to cut it off.
All right, so there you go. Damien Harris, the newest Patriot, going to be a part of the remade Patriots offense. What'd you think of the pick? Let us know in the comments down below and on Twitter at PatriotCLNS. And, of course, we have videos up on all the Patriots prospects. You can check those out on CLNSmedia.com. For Evan Lazar, I'm Alex Barth from Gillette Stadium. Thanks for watching.